Okay, hello everyone. It is July 25th, 2018. I hope everybody's doing fantastic. It is a beautiful evening here in Renfrew, Pennsylvania. Hello, Kelly and Charmin. Going to be talking about you, Charmin, here in a little bit. Ashley, good to see you. Sherry, always have trouble saying that, Sherry. Sherry, Stephanie, I hope your eye's feeling well. Christina, and Dana coming to you from Florida. Disc Golf Dana. How's everything down in Florida, Dana? I'll be up here for at least a couple more weeks. Yeah, I hope everybody's doing well. I've been personally enjoying my Pirates, although they've lost today. They won 11 games in a row. They're actually back in the playoff hunt. Not only myself, but my mother is a huge baseball fan, huge Pittsburgh Pirate fan. So we've been able to watch a lot of the games together, being that I've been up here. It's been exactly 2 weeks now. How about that? So I hope everybody's doing well. Got a lot to talk about, as is usually the case tonight. Nothing rare about that. Let me just move a couple screens here and see what I have going on. There I am. Let's see here. No, I didn't want to do that. Hold on just a second. Hello, Janet. How are you tonight? And Heather and Becky. I'm glad everybody is finding the program tonight, the show. I think, I was trying to figure out how long. Hello, Emily. Adrian, good to see you. I've been trying to figure out how long I've been doing this. I think I started in October of last year, so we are quickly coming up, I guess a few more months, on the 1-year anniversary of this show as well. So, of course, right around this time 2 years ago is when I started making phone calls as the host of Unfound, although the first episode didn't come out till September. So, but we'll be coming off the 1-year anniversary of this program, the live show, here in a couple months. And it's amazing. I don't think I've missed a Wednesday either since this started. So that's interesting. In fact, I think I might have started this on Tuesday and then switched to Wednesday. I'm going to have to think about that. Hello, Kimberly. Good to see you tonight. I just want to remind all of you, if you have any questions that you'd like to ask me, they don't necessarily have to be missing persons related. Anything of any topic, movies, music, anything, as long as it's a PG topic, I will try to answer it. But I do have some questions that people sent to me before the show began, and I'll be answering those as well. Dedication, yo. Yes, Stephanie. Stephanie, I'm very glad to hear your eye is going to be just fine. And Michelle, thank you for what you wrote about Unfound, the rating that you gave it. I saw it. Thank you very much. Emma, LaBrenda, what a great name. Love that name, LaBrenda. And Ben, seeing some new names in here tonight. I always love seeing that. I'm going to start here. I know Charmin is in here. I don't know if Chandra is, but I want to just, in this live show, personally extend a huge, deep thanks to what Charmin and Chandra did in Panhandle, Texas this past Saturday. I, of course, was not there. I tuned in through Skype, and then I was also watching it on the live feed that Charmin was doing. I cannot really thank them enough for what they did. It seems to me like this get-together they put together, this meetup, went about as well as it could go. That's my perception. Of course, Charmin and Chandra will be able to tell you that themselves. You're welcome. Thank you, Michelle. Bethany, it hasn't been humid here at all to me. Not compared to Florida. It's been pretty nice. Oh, there's Chandra right there. There she is. Okay. And Shuri, wave right back at you, Shuri. Chandra, you're in here too. Both Chandra and Charmin are watching tonight. Huge thanks to both of you. I really, just amazing. It came together so quickly, and I guess you told me that about 40 people showed up there in Panhandle, Texas. I thought it was handled perfectly. Once as far as, once again, my perception, I know some of the people there were concerned about their privacy being protected. That anyone, and I think that you handled all of that very, very well. I've heard nothing but great things about it. Not one complaint at all. Hello, Shelby and Susie, and it was. I'm really glad that you. I guess you two didn't know each other, Chandra and Charmin. I'm guessing that you two didn't know each other before Saturday. I don't know that, but whatever it was, it worked. And Penny, of course, showed up. I got to talk to her just like for 30 seconds there at the end. And I heard that she got asked a lot of questions. And I think that she was very appreciative. I mean, 2 different TV stations showed up. Amazing. That's completely amazing, too. And so you two did not know each other before Saturday. That's interesting. Sherry, how are you doing? And it sounded like a really good, productive, enjoyable meetup. People could just sit and maybe have a drink and have some food. And of course, it was all centered on Thomas Brown's disappearance. But I think that also it was just a chance for a lot of people who listened to Unfound for a lot of the other cases who happen to live in Texas to get together and just have some camaraderie. That's really good. Fantastic idea. And I have to admit, it is certainly, I guess, put at least a little pressure on myself for when I get back to Florida. And I say that in a nice way. For me, when I go back to Florida to try to put something together, because I've covered a lot of Florida cases, and particularly at least 3 in the Tampa Bay area. So we should be able to maybe get something together there, and I'm going to have to certainly start working on that, as if I don't have enough work to do once I get back to Florida. Shuri says, so many SH names. Shuri, I was thinking the exact same thing. Michelle says, wow, that's awesome. Great coverage. Bethany says, okay, compared to Florida, we've got nothing. It is kind of true, Bethany. Thanks for the video from the disappearance in Cabot the other day. Easy to forget how, I'm going to be talking about that in a little bit. I just think I think the event went off very well. And if some people are tuning in here that don't know exactly what happened, I think that the live feeds are still up in the discussion group, if not on the podcast page, that you can watch them. And what it was is that Charmin and Chandra, who didn't know each other before Saturday, put a meetup together, and a bunch of listeners from Unfound got together in Panhandle, Texas, at a bar/restaurant there. And mainly the concentration was Thomas Brown. I'm going to guess some other cases got talked about as well. So if you're not familiar with what I'm talking about, Leslie, good to see you. So that's that. And you all will have to let me know if you're planning another one there. Once again, I don't know if I'll be able to make it, but if there's anything I can do for anybody who is thinking about putting any sort of meetup in Texas or California or whatever, if there's something that I can do to make that happen and make it easier for you or whatever, as you know, I'll do whatever I need to do to make that happen. And I want to once again extend the greatest appreciation to Chandra and Charmin for the work they did in putting that all together. I thought they handled each of them handled themselves very well. Charmin talking to that reporter, you had quite a few people telling me how impressed they were with how you handled that. It was very good. Jeremiah, good to see you tonight, man. Good to see you. And you said you'll be doing another one? Great. All right. So we had the meetup that this past Saturday evening. Next thing I want to talk about, and somebody who's already mentioned it, this past Saturday I had an opportunity to go down to a place, little town called Cabot, Pennsylvania. Hello, Joyce. Cabot, Pennsylvania, where a girl disappeared in 1985. Cabot, Pennsylvania. She disappeared in February of 1985. Her name was Sherry Mahan, Cherrie Mahan, Mahan. And Michelle, you say Emily and I are doing a balloon release for my missing goddaughter, Brandy Wells, in Longview, Texas, August 3rd. Michelle, please make sure that you post about that and in the group and on the page, and let's see if we can get as much attention for that. So I guess we got about 10 days to make that happen. Okay, great. But I was down, and I went down, and it's kind of a little bit of a coincidence, but I went to high school. She was actually a year behind me. She graduated in 1990. But a girl I knew back then married a guy who, as a boy, was on the same bus that Sherry Mahan was the day she disappeared. And in fact, he got off at the same bus stop that she did. Because what happened was she was on a school bus, got off the bus, had to walk, I'm going to say it's about 200 to 300 feet from the bus stop to the driveway, and her driveway to her house was long as well. And somewhere in there, she disappeared. Well, this girl, who of course is now a grown woman, her name is Tara, and I know once in a while she tunes in. I don't know if she's watching tonight, but she told me about this. So I happened to talk to her husband on the phone, and then he and she showed up as well, and they brought their son and one of their son's friends. We met on Sunday morning at the exact location where that happened, where the bus stopped, and he got off the bus and went up the driveway to his place, and then Sherry Mahan walked down the street, and somewhere in there she disappeared. If this disappearance does not ring a bell to you, I think for people outside of Pennsylvania, what you may remember about it is for still to this day, they're looking for a Dodge conversion van that was seen in the area behind the bus that had a skier, like kind of a snow setting with a skier on it. And in fact, this guy that I met that day, and his name is Jeremy, was one, as a kid, once again, I think he was 12 or 13 at the time, he was one of the ones who gave a description of the van to the police. Now, the weird thing about that is neither before Sherry disappeared or after she disappeared was that van ever seen. It was only seen that day. There were rumors it had been seen here, but no confirmed sightings of it at all. So that's another big mystery about that case. But I was there on Sunday morning. I have to say that it's probably was the first time in my life, and I would have been 14 in February of 2000 or 1985. It's probably the first time in my life where a disappearance I felt affected me, because it was not far from where I grew up. But even so, I had never driven out there, never gone out there to that location to see what it was all about, what it was like, what was going on there, get a feel for it. Never did that until a couple days ago. And I hope that you watch the video. I'm not going to go through all the intricacies or anything like that. You can look at it for yourself. But I did about a 6-minute video with commentary just describing where the bus stopped. He would have walked up there. She walked down this way around this turn. And just don't know what happened to her. Lots of rumors ranging from that she might have been walking around that turn, got hit by a car, and the person picked her up and took her away. Or that, yes, of course, somebody in that van picked her up. Or maybe she made it home and something happened at home, because as I've talked about before, when people ask me, why don't you do more disappearances of children? My response is always, I would love to if I could be assured that the people I could talk to didn't have anything to do with the child's disappearance, because in a vast majority of the cases, parents are usually responsible for their child's disappearance. So that certainly complicates things. And so there's a lot of different possibilities in Sherry's disappearance. Her mother has been, out there. She's done a lot of interviews. I think mostly Western Pennsylvania interviews. She's been out there continuing to raise awareness about her daughter's disappearance. So that would lead you to believe she didn't have anything to do with it. But I don't know. I'd love to cover that case at some point for Unfound, if not with the Tribune Review here in Western Pennsylvania that I work with. But still working on it. But it was certainly driving there and parking there, and I'm not usually this type of guy, but you can kind of feel. You just get that kind of feeling, that you get when I think you're in a situation like that, going to a place like that for the first time. And it's something that, hello, Suzanne says crazy as she didn't have to walk far. No, she didn't, Suzanne, she didn't. And Matt says, I remember the Sherry Mahan case quite well. Yeah, Matt, I don't know where you're from, but I realize that it's not a nationally known case, but if anybody does know about it outside of Pennsylvania, it's because of the drawing of the van that was, sent out everywhere. And it might have been on Unsolved Mysteries as well. But I'm planning to do more of that, to do a little bit more on location stuff. We're going to call it Unfound on Location. Of course, once I get back to Florida, I hope to go up to where Kelly Rothwell disappeared and go to where she lived, and then where her car was found. I hope to go over up to where Patty Action disappeared off of Route 19. I hope to go over to Tampa by Busch Gardens where Lucinda Hewells disappeared. I think that'll add something, and just do a real quick video, 6 to 10 minutes or something, just describing the area. Matt, you're from Aliquippa. Okay, well, I'm right up here in Butler right now. That's where I am doing the show from, seeing my parents. And Sherry says in the milk cartons. That's why I remember it. Yep, that's Sherry. You're probably right. That's probably why a lot of other people would know about it as well. Good point. So I did that. So I'm going to be try to do some on location stuff if I have the opportunity to do it, if I'm going to be in that area. So please be looking for that. So I got to do that this past Sunday. And I hope, if you haven't checked that video out, please go I uploaded it to the group or to the page, but it's also at the Unfound channel on YouTube, where you can find this video later, of course, as well. Lastly, this is going to be the last Sunday of the month, so that means that another Trib article will be coming out, and it's going to be covering the disappearance of Mary Ann Verdecchia from Bloomfield, which is a kind of a suburb, a little town within the Pittsburgh city limits. And she disappeared way back in 1962. Stephen Huba, once again, is doing the article. And it's very interesting that this time, who he interviewed, who I got to talk to first, and then he went and met this woman in person, a woman of the detective who actually worked on the case. And yes, it was a woman detective in 1962. Kind of, you could say, a woman before her time, Therese Rocco, who investigated that disappearance, of course, that is still unsolved. Thank you for the wave, Jillian. I see you waving. I see a wave. Thank you. And Ashley says, you have the best memory organization skills to keep all these things straight. Thank you, Ashley. It's not easy, but I do what I can. Thank you. But Therese Rocco is a Pittsburgh Police Department icon. And she actually has a book out about her life, of how she rose so high up into the Pittsburgh Police Department. You can find that book on Amazon in both print and ebook form. I have the book in ebook form. It's really good. And the chapter on Mary Ann's disappearance and everything that she did to try to figure out what happened is probably the largest chapter in the book. And so Stephen got to go and meet her, I think, last week. And so it's a combination of talking about the disappearance of Mary Ann Verdecchia, who's just a little girl at the time, and talking about Therese Rocco and her experience as a woman rising up in the police department, kind of, once again, before her time, before women were really involved in law enforcement like they are today. Mary Ann Verdecchia, I can spell the last name, sure, it's Verdeccia. It's on Charlie Project. It's on the Charlie Project. But it's pronounced Verdecchia, very Italian name, I guess. But so it's it's an interesting story from a lot of different angles, but unfortunately, Marianne to this day has never been found. A lot of rumors, some suspects. Therese had her own ideas of what might have happened, but she could never prove anything. Once again, the case is unsolved to this day. Tracy, hello, right back to you. Good to see you tonight. So that's my intro. That's with some things that are going on. So once again, that I will be linking to the article at triblive.com this weekend, and the article will be coming out this Sunday in the Tribune Review in Western Pennsylvania. At this point, why don't I, let's go down here a little bit. Why don't I take some questions? Lana says, I finally catch you live, Ed. Here I am. I'm here every Wednesday night. Good to see you. And in fact, should I say this? I guess I can say this. Actually, next Wednesday, we'll be doing the show just as regularly, but you should know next Wednesday is my birthday. August 1st is my birthday, but I'm still going to do the show. I'm going to be here for all of you. Angel had asked me before the show started if we had any flooding here, because a lot of weird weather patterns have been going on. It has absolutely been beautiful here in Pennsylvania since I got here for the last 2 weeks. I mean, I have the window. There's a window right behind the computer here. It's beautiful. It's absolutely beautiful night. Just the perfect temperature at night. It's been a little overcast. We've had a little bit of rain here and there, but it has been absolutely beautiful. No real weather issues at all. Emmett had asked me before, and I don't know if she's in here or not, but I'm going to answer it anyway. If she misses it, she can watch it on YouTube. Emma asked me if I've thought about branching out into other kinds of mysteries or crimes. No, that I can tell you pretty sure 99.999% that's never going to happen. Unfortunately, there are more than enough cases for Unfound to cover when it comes to missing persons. Way too many. So I cannot see myself. I would like to be a specialist in this particular genre of crime and mystery. I think that is what this genre of true crime needs. I frankly think that there aren't enough missing persons experts out there. I'm not saying, I don't even know how you would call yourself an expert in this. I suppose if you cover it long enough and seriously enough, you could. But we need more people who are specialists in missing persons cases. If anything we've learned about missing persons cases, one of the reasons that they go unsolved is because the police detectives who are looking into them don't have a lot of missing persons experience. They come from drug enforcement or homicide, and missing persons is its own special category. And I think from both my side as a reporter, I need to maintain, that specialist category. So, Emma, and I've had other people, you look into this murder, my brother was murdered, and I feel for all these people. I feel for them. I really do. But that's not going to happen. It's just not going to happen. Somebody had said their wedding anniversary is on August 1st. One of my best friend's anniversaries is on August 1st as well. Lana says her birthday is July 30th. You're a Leo like I am. I love being a Leo, even though I'm not really into the zodiac stuff, but I love having a birthday at August 1st. It just even sounds cool. And Chandra says she agrees, I guess, with the specialist idea. Jillian, thank you. Bethany, you agree? Thank you. Leslie asked me, have you done anything in Daytona on the missing women in the 80s there? No, I've not. I've done a lot of Florida cases, but now that I think about it, I don't think I've done any in the Daytona area. That's something I'm going to have to look into, Leslie. Actually, a disappearance that I bring up once in a while when people bring up, is there a case you'd like to cover? There's a disappearance from Jacksonville, 2 girls from Jacksonville. But Daytona, I'm going to have to look into that, Leslie. I can't say that it pops into my mind. I will have to look into that at some point. Michelle says, I've always wanted to do a show on missing people. I would like to become a specialist myself. Michelle, I fully support that. You know, Ashley asked me, are there quote unquote requirements to look into missing persons cases? Well, just, I think the easiest way to learn about missing persons cases is just commit yourself to reading a lot of things on NamUs or on Charlie Project or wherever, and just seeing what you can learn about them, generalities of what happened. I think that's where a good place to start. And unfortunately, I'm missing some of these comments. They're going by so fast. So I would say there's not any special requirements except to say that, if I'm guessing that a private investigator or something might have access to maybe a little bit more material or something like that. But you don't need any degree or anything to take an interest in this and, try to help these people out. Leslie, you want to send me some info on the Daytona disappearances? Great. Great. I will, of course, look for it. Let me see if I can. I've always wanted to do it. Michelle says, I've always wanted to do a TV show of missing people. I'd like to become are there requirements? Hi, Atlanta asked me, can you add does to your show? Obviously, Jane Does are missing persons, sort of. I guess what you mean, Lana, is that, hello, Cassie. I guess you mean kind of like unidentified remains. Once again, I hate saying no, but I'm going to have to say no. My specialty, where I want to be concentrated in are missing people who there's no trace of their remains or anything. I think that's just the way it's going to be. I would, hope that somebody would jump at the chance of, doing, an unidentified remains show or something like that, but it doesn't seem that's happening. Something that's like that and nothing else. That's just not something somebody has done yet, and that's unfortunate. Hello, Amy. How are you doing? Katrina says, any new development on the Laura Bible and Ashley Freeman case? Just wondering if the one suspect has spoken yet, where they are. Katrina, I have no idea. I've not talked to Laureen. I don't know anything more than any of you do at this point. It says it's freezing up on your end. Let's see here. Let's see what it looks like. Feed looks pretty good to me, but it does occur to me that I don't quite get the same great reception or Wi-Fi quickness that I do in Florida. So I don't know what to tell you about that, Amy. Sorry to hear that. So we answered, Heather asked me a question. Are there any cases I won't do? And I think when Heather is asking me this, she is asking me in the context of any kinds of disappearances that I won't do. The general answer is I rule out no disappearances. All right. Kara says there's always room for more podcasts. Someone should start a dope podcast. Kara, I agree. But Heather asks, are there any disappearance cases I won't do? The simple answer is no. I will consider all disappearance cases. The issue is once you get into them, what turns up, what are people willing to say? I've talked about this before. Some families, they just want to put forward certain ideas, and they want to leave other ideas out of the public sphere. As a reporter, I have a problem with that. They just want to forward some theory, and they want to talk about this over here, but they don't want to talk about these facts over here. That always makes me suspicious, and so I have to usually shy away from those cases. I like to be able to be frank and honest with the listeners. I realize there's always, in fact, this case this Friday, there's certain things that my guest, Monica Button, who is the mother of Nieko Lisi, who is the case this week, There are some things she admits she can't tell me, and we can't tell all of you. But I don't think that what she is withholding at this point detracts from understanding what happened and trying for us as the public to try to figure it out. Yes, I wish that at some point she will come forward with that information. But at this point, she's not going to. That's different than when I'm talking about where somebody is shying away from certain people for certain reasons. And no, I've not covered the Springfield 3 yet, for whoever asked me that just a little while ago. Janet, I'm not familiar with the Johnny Gosch case off the top of my head. Kara asked me, are there any cases you've decided not to cover because of personal safety? Personal safety is never consideration, ever. Never. And it never will be. Never will be. So, I mean, the example that I always give is there was a case early on in Unfound's existence that I wanted to cover. It was pretty obvious to me that the facts were pointing in the direction that the reason this guy disappeared is because he was cheating on his wife, and he had some mistresses, and there was something going on there. And his family wanted to push forward the idea that the federal government made him disappear and didn't want to talk about any of this other stuff. I couldn't do that. That's just something that I don't mind talking about, even though it sounds somewhat conspiratorial to me, the federal government to him. I'm willing to talk about that if we're willing to talk about his ex-wife and how he was cheating on her, and and he was last seen with his wife's brother, etc. Didn't want to talk about it. So that would be a case. That's an example of something I can't do. Sharman says, I'll send some info on Johnny Gosch's case, Ed. Okay, Sharman, I'll take a look at it. Shuri, I have a case in mind also, but not for public discussion. Shuri, you can contact me anytime about any case that you have in mind. And, of course, you've sent some people to me that I'm still working on. So that's fine. But no, in general, there aren't any cases that I want to do in general. But once again, just because I talk to somebody and we have a conversation, everything doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to become an episode. There was another case that I was going to cover from North Dakota, and eventually the family just decided, you know what, at this time probably we're gonna stay away from it. After they found out, what I do and everything, you know what, there's just certain things we don't feel comfortable talking about right at the second. That's fine. So just because I talk to somebody, have an initial conversation, doesn't mean it's going to become an episode. A lot of different variables. Kara says, being fearless is the mark of a great reporter. I thank you, or a stupid one. It's all, either way. Have you ever suspected a person you interviewed was a suspect? No, Katrina. The amount of discussions that I do with people before we actually do an interview rules that out. But that's when it comes back to, like I said, about child cases. You can never really tell with those. But most of the cases I've done are with adults disappearing. And if they are children's disappearances, there's enough information out there to know that the family didn't have anything to do with it. Devin says, what did Devin say? Have you ever suspected, say, a family member? I've suspected family members, but not the ones who I interviewed. Maybe I should be clear about that. How'd someone else just go live on the Unfound page? I don't know anything about that, Ashley. That's weird. Devin says, growing up, I had two friends come up missing. How often does that happen? One friend was Rashonda Pickle. There was just recently in the last few years an arrest made. The odds of that happening, Devin, are the second was Shauna Chavez. She's missing from Texas, but was from Sweet Home, Oregon. I'm not familiar with either of those cases, and it does sound like some sort of statistical anomaly, Devin. Although maybe some, I don't know those cases. Maybe the same person is responsible for both disappearances. I don't know. But you're right. That's pretty rare. That is pretty rare. Although I will tell you, I was talking to somebody on the phone just a few hours ago, a case that I'm sure is going to become one that will become an episode, where a woman disappeared and her friend disappeared on the same day. The remains of her friend were found and this woman wasn't. So that's eventually going to, I'm pretty sure that's eventually going to be a case that's on Unfound. I don't know when that's going to happen though. Andrew, welcome. Thanks for tuning in tonight. Thanks for making time. Joey, good to see you as well. Lisa, always good to see Lisa in the group. Thank you for showing up. And maybe we can get together once I get back to Florida, Lisa. That would be nice. I'm going to be here for at least a couple more weeks. So, how long are we? 9:37. There's just a couple things, a couple news items that I want to talk about. Maybe a couple things that caught your eye as well. There was this jogger, Molly Tibbetts. She went jogging in the evening, I guess a week ago, from Brooklyn, Iowa. I didn't even know there was a Brooklyn, Iowa. And she never came back. No signs of her. Nothing. I have to admit that in the group, I posted that I wonder if, the boyfriend said she went out and never came back. And of course, we all know what we think, that, did the boyfriend have something to do with it? And there was a curious quote that he made that, of course, I don't think is helping his case right at this second. In that, he believes that she had a Fitbit with her. He believes that she had her cell phone with her. Well, wouldn't those be things that could easily be discerned if he looked around the house and tried to find her phone or the Fitbit? It's kind of a curious statement. Of course, people make odd statements if they're nervous, and they could be innocent and just nervous. It seemed like a curious statement. And I don't think it's crazy for, to be a little suspicious of this. I don't know what to think. Maybe she got hit by a car and got knocked over a guardrail somewhere. She could have been abducted. Maybe this is like Sherry Papini all over again. There's just lots of possibilities right now. And the case is a week old. But I'm sure a lot of you saw that. It's made national news. And there you go. I just wanted to mention that. But it does feel like one of those situations like we've done very much on Unfound. I don't know. The husband says, I don't know. I woke up one day and my wife was just gone. We know what we think about those cases. This kind of feels like that. But women, as we know, have been honestly abducted by strangers jogging and being out. So that happens too. Kara asked me, so I wanted to bring that up for the news. I know a lot of you have seen that. Just my 2 cents on it. Kara once again asked, this is a good question too. How many cases do you already have recorded but unreleased? I usually don't like to work too far ahead, Kara, depending. And right now, all I have is Friday's interview, and most of that episode completed for Friday. But I can tell you that I'll be doing the interview for next Friday's episode tomorrow. Just depends. Just depends how schedules work out. Depends on the schedule. What my guest is doing. Depends if I feel like I'm ready. A lot of variables go into that. But I don't really like to work too far ahead unless it's special circumstances. I like to have the interview done at least a week in advance, usually. It's probably about the way it works out. Devin, you can send me any information at unfoundpodcast@gmail.com. I'll take a look at it. Lisa, you want to go to Def Leppard? That's right, we're supposed to go. We can talk about that offline. Debbie asks, have you heard any more on Thomas Brown? I have not. Anybody who probably attended the meetup in Panhandle, Texas on Saturday probably has more up-to-date info, Debbie, than I do at this point. Once again, I have to move on to other cases. I try to cover as many cases. I'm not a specialist in Thomas's case. Yes, I saw the video. That certainly helped, I think, Penny and everything that has gone on there. But if I am not a specialist on any one case. I'm just a specialist over on missing persons cases. But I would direct your attention to Charmin, who's in here, on Chandra, who's also watching tonight. They might be able to help you. And of course, you can find Penny, Thomas's mother, in the discussion group. It's just that, I have to move on to other cases. And I try to give those cases as much work and attention as I gave Thomas's back at that time. But I continue to talk to Penny. But I think maybe it'd be just best if you try to contact those people who know yourself. Katrina, can't remember the lady's name that disappeared from Country Club. Didn't hear on a podcast everyone who reviewed her brother. Just curious if you knew anything. She was walking in his house. I'm not sure, Katrina, what you're talking about. Sorry. Hello, Sue. Right back at you. Man, we got a lot of new people watching tonight. That's fantastic. Shuri said you heard that she got in a Buick. Are you talking about Molly Tibbetts? That's interesting. I don't know anything about that. He allegedly received a Snapchat from her. Guess she had her phone. I guess so, Charlie. Unfound the lost files. That's funny, Stephanie. 50. Yeah, I see the viewers. Emily wants everybody to know Brandy Godmother and I are trying to get an event set up to honor Brandy Wells and remind people that she is still missing. We all keep you updated on the date, time, and place. Emily, great. Eva, welcome tonight. Okay, thank you. I was at the meeting. Debbie says you were at the meeting in the Panhandle. Then Debbie, you probably know as much as I do. So that's great. No, Charmin says no info on Tom Brown case per his mom. Okay. And Shuri says yes. She got into a Buick. Okay. I don't know what to think about all of that. I really don't know in regards to Molly Tibbetts. Let's go to this week's case. Being that we're about 45 minutes in. This is the disappearance of Nieko Lisi. His first name is Nieko, last name Lisi. And this is a disappearance that is on NamUs and it is on the Charlie Project. The title for this episode is going to be called, I know it's a little bit of a weird title, but it's called The Answer Year. And it's from a quote that I found from an African-American novelist, author, anthropologist who said that there are years that ask questions and then there are years that answer them. And that is kind of at least a little bit of the theme for this episode. And I think it's a great theme for all missing persons cases that, when a disappearance happened that year, that's when the questions start. What happened? Who did it? Where did this person go? Who were they talking to? Etc. And then at some point down the road, hopefully there is a year, maybe the same year, hopefully, but maybe the next year, where answers start to come out. And so I'm hoping in Nieko Lisi's case, the 2018 is the year that his mother, Monica, who is my guest, and the rest of her family get answers as to what happened to Nieko. The big issue with this case, what makes it, I think, especially unique and difficult, is that Monica has had to work with at least 3 different police departments in cobbling all of the information together. And I'm sure that's not made it easy on the cops either, because Nieko was from New York. He left New York with a guy who was hanging out with Robbie Knight. Then they went to Michigan, Romulus, Michigan, and then at least Nieko ended up in Franklin, Tennessee, a place that he had lived for a little while, a couple years before he disappeared. So she has had to, kind of put this all together in some way to understand what happened. And it's been very difficult. It's been very difficult. I think she's doing a great job of it. I think it seems to me that there is information even within a couple years ago, because one of the things that happened is that Nieko disappeared on October 1st, 2011, but the truck that he took down there, which was stolen, also disappeared. But then about 2 years ago, it was found in somebody's garage. And the interesting thing about that is that Nieko, when he had gone down there and gone to school in Franklin, Tennessee, he knew he knew the kid whose family owned that house where the truck was found. And the truck was not found. Sue's asked me, who's author? Epic quote. Sue, the author is Zora Neale Hurston is the author of that quote. Hurston is the author. Zora Neale Hurston. And the interesting other part about this make this a little confusing, is people admit they saw Nieko on October 1st, 2011, except when Monica went down there to talk to these people, they were very evasive, and then they lawyered up. Not to mention that Robbie Knight, who was with Nieko in New York and left New York with him in this pickup truck, about a week after Nieko disappeared, he, like a few days later, like on October 4th, he was seen in Michigan again, and then he overdosed and killed himself around October 8th. Not to mention, it is believed that this guy, Robbie Knight's father, who lived in Romulus, Michigan, was kind of lying for his son. He is also deceased now. In addition, the kid who was living in the house where the parted out truck was found, he died in December 2014. And then Robbie Knight's brother, who was living in Michigan, who Monica believes possibly went to Tennessee with Nieko and Robbie, he also died recently. So there are so many, there's a disappearance, and then there are so many, I wouldn't call them suspicious, but just overdoses and drugs connected, some of these, even though there is no proof that Nieko ever did drugs. But it seems some of these other people did, and it seems like they paid with their lives doing them. So it's a very complex case, as you can even tell me trying to explain some of these things. Kind of intricate. A lot of things you wouldn't expect, but the main point is this. We need to figure out what happened to Nieko Lisi on October 1st, 2011 in Franklin, Tennessee. That is the main point. What can we do? What can we learn from everything that Monica and I talk about to help her now in 2018? That is the main focus, and of course, that's the main focus for any case that Unfound covers. But I do know, sometimes we get so fascinated by, well, this is interesting and that's interesting. And the facts that you're going to find out about in this case should always lead to trying to figure out what happened and who did it and how to go about proving it. Now, like I said before, there are going to be some names that Monica is not going to mention. She knows what the names are. I do not. She hasn't even told me. So there are names and some addresses that she's not going to mention because the police have told her not to. You know how I feel about that stuff. I believe that all information should be released, but that's her choice at this time. I'm not going to give her a hard time about it, but I hope at some point in the future she will, change her mind. But I still think that we give this case as much coverage as anywhere else, and I think that Monica was very thankful of coming on Unfound because there have been others who have covered the disappearance and never consulted her or anybody in her family, and they've gotten things wrong. They made a lot of assumptions. They come up with a lot of crazy theories. And Monica, of course, has not liked it very much, as none of my guests like it when those things happen in the case that they're involved in. So she talks about that a little bit, and I perfectly understand those feelings as well. But this case, once again, the disappearance of Nieko Lisi, a young man who went from New York to Michigan to Tennessee and disappeared in Franklin, Tennessee on October 1st, 2011. And the episode is called The Answer Year. Katrina says, Helen Diamond is the one that walked away from Country Club to her brother's house but never made it. Yes. I remember now. Tina says, I just got back from Franklin, Tennessee. It's a beautiful drive. I'm an hour from there if I need to do sleuthing. Tina, I surely hope that you will take a deep interest in this case. Thank you. Well, he overdosed. We don't know if it was intentional. Sure, that's true. Hello, Maggie. Good to see you tonight. Kelly, good to see you tonight. Is the sighting in Rochester confirmed? Rochester never comes up in my discussion with Monica. Rodney says, is there a way you can adjust the audio in some of the calls? Sometimes it's just as low and you come in hot other way around, or the other way around. Rodney, it all depends. I don't get a lot of audio complaints, but I do know that there's no one way that I can mix it so everybody is happy. Some people listen in their car. Some people listen on headphones that are the big style, like this kind. Then some people listen with earbuds. Some people listen on their phones. And I realize that the audio sounds different each way that you listen to it. And there's no way if I make it too loud, then some people think it's too loud, too soft. I just tried, Rodney, really to try to split the difference between all of it. And I apologize if sometimes the audio is low or something like that, but that is not because I want it that way. It's probably just because I'm trying to split the difference between all the different ways that I know, because it's not unusual for somebody to say to me, that last episode was really, really loud. It was really so hot. Why was it so loud? And then somebody else to tell me the same exact episode was too soft. I don't know what I can do about that. All I can tell you, Rodney, is that the best audio is always going to be on Podomatic.com. Always. That's the way it's always going to be, because everybody else, including iTunes, they degrade the quality of the streaming so it doesn't take as much memory to stream the show. Okay? Whereas Podomatic doesn't do that, because that's where the shows and the program is hosted. That's where I upload the file in the first place. So that's all I can really tell you. I wish I could help you more on Rodney without being there and looking your how you're listening and everything else. I don't know how much I can help you otherwise. Sue says Tennessee is big drop spot. Not sure. Kara says, sadly, drugs surround a lot of these disappearances. That's true. Maggie, I see you waving at me. How are you doing? Stevie, Carrie, thanks for tuning in. Thanks. One more thing, one more piece of news. So that's the episode for this week. Nieko Lisi disappeared, Franklin, Tennessee, October 1st, 2011. The interview is with his mother, Monica, and that episode is about 2.5 hours long. So please make some time for it. One more thing I wanted to talk about before we leave, another news item, just to get all of you thinking about this and wondering. The murder of Dr. Mark Hosknetch. I don't know how it's said. I've not heard Halsnet. He was a guy who, well-known surgeon who had actually helped George Herbert Walker Bush, so the 41st president of the United States, and some heart issues. He was biking to work. He's a surgeon, and he was shot while biking to work, murdered. And I'm just wondering if all of you have seen this case and what you think about it. They have, I guess, some video of him biking and then this guy on another bike who shot him. Was it targeted? Was it a random shooting? Was the guy on the other bike maybe lost his mind or something like that? Paranoid or delusional or something. I have to tell you that I am inclined to believe this was a targeted shooting. I have to tell you that is my inclination. Right. Once again, if you want to look it up, it's Dr. Mark, Hausknecht. It's been a national news story, mainly because he worked on a former president at one time. But he always biked to work, and then this particular day, this guy ended up following him, passed him up, then stopped and shot this surgeon, this doctor, right in the head, killing him. And they have a description of the person who did it. had a backpack on. And I'm just wondering if this person didn't hold this doctor responsible, maybe for a death, or maybe there was a malpractice suit or something. I have to admit that has gone through my head as I've read about this case. So maybe some of you have also seen it. Kara says, seems too odd not to be targeted. My mom, Shuri says, my mom works for Memorial Hermann and she thinks it was a targeted shooting also. She works for the CEO of all the doctors. I guess a lot of great minds think alike, Shuri and Kara and Michelle. We all think alike on that. So I'm sure they're going through his cases right now to see if we've got any nasty emails or calls or something like that, I'm sure. But I am going to call it a night. We're coming up on an hour. So what did we do tonight? We talked about the meetup from last weekend that was arranged by Charmin and Chandra, who did a great job. We talked about me going down to where the disappearance of Sherry Mahan happened. We talked about the upcoming triblive.com case of Mary Ann Verdecchia, Verdeccia, that's going to be coming out this Sunday, that I assisted on, along with the interview with the female detective who was looking into it back in 1962, Therese Rocco. One thing I didn't talk about, of course, I'm wearing an Unfound shirt tonight. Got the books, all volumes 1 through 4. Please check those out. Ebooks, print editions. If you've bought one of them, please go to Amazon and give them a review if you haven't done so already. The playing cards, and then also PayPal and Patreon supporters. I cannot thank you enough. So much support that the show has gotten, especially over the last few months. I deeply, deeply appreciate it. And we talked about Molly Tibbetts, who went jogging and never came back. And we talked about, of course, just mentioned the murder of this Dr. Mark Hosknetch. I'm going to give it my best shot, who was shot while biking to work. And I see a lot of you are thinking that it was targeted just like I am. And then we talked about, and I took some questions from the audience, some nice questions, some new questions, which I appreciate. Saw a lot of new viewers tonight. And then finally, most importantly, we have the disappearance of Nieko Lisi, which will be Friday's case. It's called The Answer Year, because we're going to try to get answers for Monica, his mother, and her family this year. We're going to try to do that. Nico's from New York, but he disappeared from Franklin, Tennessee on October 1st, 2011. And that is the case for this Friday. And I hope you will pay deep attention. I know it's a long episode, but a lot of information that I think you're going to need to know if you want to take an interest in trying to help out the Lisi family. Rodney says, no problem, your show's still great. Rodney, I'm just being honest with you about when the audio issues. I'm just being honest. I wish I could help every person individually with any audio issues that they're having, but I can't. Barbara says she forgot it was Wednesday. Barbara, no problem. It's going to be up on YouTube in no time. Kara says, have a great weekend. Everybody's saying good night. Maggie says, we'll love a t-shirt. You can go to my Shopify. I'm always linking to that, Maggie, if you want to check it out. And everybody's, some of these people, remember, Michelle says, remember Brandy Wells' balloon release August 3rd in Longview, Texas. And I know that there was some news about a remains being found in Longview, Texas. I didn't get to mention that yet, but that happened in Longview, Texas within the last couple days. So, Michelle, I'm sure you know about that. I hope you will keep us all updated with that. But I'm going to go. It's been great talking to all of you tonight. A lot of people tuning in, lots of questions. Had 187 comments tonight. I think that's a new record. And you will hear me on Friday for the disappearance of Nieko Lisi. And then next Wednesday, when you see me again on here, it'll be my birthday. I'm going to be 29. No, I'm going to be 48. Good night, everyone. Thank you all for tuning in. Thank you for making my favorite time of the week. And I appreciate all the time you give to the show on Wednesday nights. And then, of course, listening to the episodes of Unfound, which I know are always long. Good night.